everyone. Today on Good Morning Maine, we'll have all the latest news coming up from Augusta. The script's not there, so we'll just tell you what's going on. We will tell you about a man from Holden who is back behind bars today following his arrest for yet another alleged crime. We'll have the latest on that. Also, Governor Mills says she won't be issuing an apology to President Trump after all. We'll tell you about that. We'll also visit a man down in the town of China who's kind of revisiting his family's leather craft skills. He has his own leather making business right now.
I know.
So that's kind of a neat situation as well.
We have a little bit of everything in the show right now. Politics and culture, local.
Yeah, but first a little breaking news to tell you about happening in Eddington. We don't know a lot about it at this point, but there's been reportedly a large police presence on the Bradley Road in Eddington this morning. We don't really know what's going on. According to some social media accounts, there was a man barricaded inside a house earlier there, and it was at the same house where a standoff had occurred several months or maybe a year or so ago. There were also reports of gunshots, but apparently a man has been taken into custody there. So we'll be looking into that as the day rolls along. The other big news of the day is, of course, the snowstorm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's get a look at that forecast with meteorologist Devin Biggs.
Hey, Craig and Emma, thank you very much. Happy Tuesday. We have a small craft advisory that's up until 6 a.m. Wednesday. Along the coast, still some active surf that we are keeping an eye on. Visibility levels kind of hit and miss in a few areas this morning where we have some areas of dense fog that have been developing in a few areas. We'll see that tapering off rather soon. Meanwhile, we had some snowfall yesterday, and most of us saw around 4 to 5 inches. Here's a couple reports right here. Calais saw around 5 inches, Bangor around 5.3 inches. So overall, some decent snowfall across the area, and a couple more reports too. Greenville at around 6 inches, Lakeville at around 4.5 inches of snow. Now that snow has since tapered off, it's tracking off to the north and east, but we're not completely done with the precipitation. There's more energy off toward the west and to the northwest too, and now we'll send some more rain and snow in our direction. Futurecast showing those rain and snow showers developing this afternoon. They will taper off early this evening, but notice some clouds and even some dense fog on the way later on tonight. But otherwise, your forecast for today, we have mid-40s scattered rain and snow showers and a southwest breeze at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Your hourly forecast for the rest of the morning and afternoon period showing a mostly cloudy sky, scattered rain and snow showers for the afternoon. Temperatures warming into the 40s. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Craig and Emma.
Thank you, Devin. We'll have a look at that full 5-day a little later on. Drivers will certainly want to take it easy as they head out for the day today. The roads are still very slippery in some areas. The early spring snowstorm created a lot of problems for drivers as it started building up Monday afternoon. This was the scene on Route 201 in Norwich Walk, where a tanker flipped over on its side. The driver apparently lost control and ended up blocking the roadway. There were similar reports elsewhere as emergency crews responded to numerous reports of vehicles sliding off the roadways. All state offices and many schools and businesses also closed early for the day. Plow crews have been up all night cleaning up, but some roadways remain slick and drivers will want to slow down this morning.
In fact, I was just hearing a report a few minutes ago about another local rollover crash. There's yet another rollover crash happened just a while ago up around the Howland exit too. So just be careful out there when you head out today. All right, in other news this morning, a Holden man convicted of multiple charges after hitting an 86-year-old man with a car in Brewer has now been arrested for a second time after his conviction. According to Holden Police Department, 53-year-old David McKenzie of Holden was previously arrested for aggravated assault while out on post-conviction bail. After a hearing, authorities determined that McKenzie violated the terms of his bail, and as a result, he was placed under house arrest and instructed not to have contact with a certain witness in that criminal case. Recently, though, Holden police received anonymous reports that McKenzie was violating his house arrest conditions and having contact with said witness. According to Holden police, at around 9:30 on Saturday, March 22nd, an officer observed McKenzie and that witness pull into McKenzie's residence. The officer allegedly made several attempts with his public address system and by knocking on the door to get McKenzie to exit the home, but he refused to do so. A warrant was later obtained, and with assistance from Brewer and state police, entry was made into the residence where McKenzie was arrested without incident. The witness was also found hiding in that home. Mackenzie is now being held at the Penobscot County Jail without bail.
The woman charged with murder in the death of her boyfriend in Etna last week had her initial court appearance delayed. 36-year-old Heidi Tasker is accused of fatally stabbing 41-year-old Luke Norris at their residence on the Old County Road in Etna on Friday. Police officers found him dead inside when they responded to a 911 call from the residence. Tasker appeared in court Monday morning by video call, but after conversations with the defense and the prosecution, the judge agreed to delay the proceeding for a week. She was reported to be in a high rate of distress and couldn't focus. Tasker will now undergo a mental competency evaluation to see if she is able to understand the charge against her.
On Saturday, the president made a post on the platform Truth Social calling for a, quote, full-throated apology from Governor Mills over what the president described as an unlawful challenge to the federal government. Governor Mills spoke with members of the media during an event in Bangor yesterday, and when asked if she plans to issue that apology, she told reporters that she does not communicate with public officials over social media.
My issue is about the rule of law, pure and simple. It's not about transgender sports. It's about who makes the laws and who enforces the laws. I read the Constitution. The Constitution says that the President, the Chief Executive, shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. It doesn't allow him to make laws out of whole cloth by tweet or Instagram post or press release or executive order. That's just fundamental law, and I stand for the rule of law and the separation of powers.
People gathered in Augusta on Monday to testify for a bill they say would increase access to mental health care across the state. Our Kelly Warren has the story.
Supporters of LD 653 made their voices heard at Maine's Capitol on Monday. It's a bill that would require Maine's Health and Human Services to apply for a federal waiver that would allow for Medicaid to pay for inpatient mental health care treatment at larger facilities.
I implore you to support LD 563. Maine citizens deserve access to the same comprehensive care that my son receives in New Hampshire.
Something that many states in the Northeast, including New Hampshire, Vermont, and Massachusetts, already have done.
It doesn't have to happen. It doesn't happen so much in other places. New Jersey hasn't had a mental illness tragedy since 2004.
Supporters say it could help prevent mental illness-related tragedies.
My brother Robert Card II took 18 innocent lives and traumatized an entire community. While not everyone with psychosis requires hospitalization, some, like my brother, who experienced psychosis with anosognosia, do, for their own safety and the safety of others.
And could keep those with serious mental illnesses out of incarceration while providing better care and treatment.
Well, if we can get this bill through, then obviously, to add ACT teams, to add behavioral health liaisons with police, to add transitional housing. I mean, it's costing the state so much more money to not do something than if they actually did something.
Currently, a federal waiver is in place for Maine DHHS to use MaineCare to cover substance use disorder-related stays in mental institutions. MaineCare personnel say they are planning to expand the renewal of that waiver to include mental health-related inpatient and transitional care, which they expect to likely take more than 2 years.
This waiver application will also meet the requirements of this proposed LD.
2 public hearings will be held in April to receive public comment on this current plan. In Augusta, Callie Warren, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
In observation of the Affordable Care Act turning 15 years old, Democratic leadership and policy advocates met virtually yesterday to highlight what they say are ongoing threats to American health care. Representatives from Protect Our Care, Consumers for Affordable Care, and Maine Children's Alliance, along with Maine's Assistant House Leader, Lori Gramlich, all spoke during that event. According to those speakers, congressional Republicans are attempting to, quote, rip away access to quality, affordable health care coverage by taking tax credits away from working families.
There are a number of bills coming before the Health Coverage Insurance Financial Services Committee that aim to address some of this. I encourage you to contact your elected officials, both in the state of Maine and certainly at the national level, so that they can understand why this is a critically important initiative that we cannot do without.
Maine General Medical Center says it's laying off about 100 employees next month. And as Anna Kuhn explains, the hospital is blaming a state funding fight that's causing temporary cuts to main care reimbursements.
The state started limiting payments to providers on March 12th, and Maine General says it's been costing the hospital $600,000 every week.
They have taken a fairly dramatic step.
Maine General's CEO says the lack of reimbursement from the state is piling on to an already tough financial situation, and he's laying off 100 people, writing in a statement, quote, "The current crisis in Maine care funding compounds an already tenuous financial footing for Maine General and other hospitals in the state." Lawmakers passed a state budget last week that fills a $118 million hole in the state's Medicaid program. But because Republicans didn't support it, hospitals won't get paid until late June.
Some of our members are in that situation now where the ability to just reach into another pocket and find a pot of money is gone.
And it's not just Maine General weighing cuts.
I talked to the folks at Penobscot Valley Hospital last week. They're seeing $26,000 a week cut, which for a 25-bed hospital, that is not something that can be sustained.
As hospitals struggle to stay afloat, some lawmakers say there is no specific plan to cover providers until they get paid in the summer.
I'm open to anything that would make sure that we keep these hospitals open and operating.
Republicans did not sign on to this budget plan and say Democrats own the problem that hospitals aren't getting paid on time. The party's planning to hold a press conference on the issue tomorrow.
And that was Anna Kuhn reporting.
The time now is 8:12. Coming up next on Good Morning Maine, a celebration in Bangor where residents of a mobile home park have taken ownership of the facility. We'll hear how that will help improve their lives.
But first, another check of that weather forecast. Today we can expect more scattered rain and snow showers. Things will be melting, though, as temperatures rise into the mid-40s. Partly cloudy tonight with a chance of rain and snow showers. Lows dropping down to the mid-20s. Tomorrow, yes, more scattered rain and snow showers on the way with highs near 45. We'll be right back.
All across our state, American-made clean energy has created over 2,400 good-paying jobs while lowering energy costs for Mainers. Farmers across the state are earning millions in income through long-term land leases from clean energy projects. Homegrown power from wind and solar are driving American energy dominance and powering our future. Maine wins with clean energy. Call Senator Collins and thank her for supporting an all-of-the-above energy strategy that creates jobs in our state.
John Brown first opened his own appliance store in Ellsworth in 1976. With his gift of storytelling, a strong work ethic, and a philosophy of putting others first, John and his wife and children saw the business prosper and grow. Today's third and fourth generation of family and their entire team continue to follow the example set by their grandparents and parents. Brown Appliance and Mattress, High Street, Ellsworth, a family tradition of quality, value, and customer service that always puts you first.
Why should your new floor come from Carpet One? Because we're passionate about the spaces our neighbors call home. We're part of your community, and we're also part of the world's largest cooperative of independently owned and operated flooring stores. So you can be sure you'll get great selection and outstanding value with every installation. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, tile, or luxury vinyl, our experts take the guesswork out of choosing the right floor. We're your local Carpet One Floor and Home, the one store for your perfect floor.
Hey, 25 Words or Less Superfans. Our Super Fan Contest has returned.
You can do it!
You'll be on air with Meredith, the celebs,
Correct,
and the contestants. Enter to win at 25words.com.
I'm Amy Kay!
Wow!
Good luck and keep your streak alive.
You just made $1,000 for Nikki at home.
Thank you so much.
The lucky superfans will be chosen at random. If the contestants win $10,000,
You did it!
you win $1,000. Enter now.
Transitional housing is coming to the Belfast area. The Mid-Coast Maine Homeless Coalition is teaming up with the Belfast United Methodist Church to offer a transitional housing facility inside the church's building for up to 4 families. The proposal has received support from the Belfast City Council and the Planning Board. At last week's Town Council meeting, amendments to several city ordinances were approved in order to proceed with the project. Belfast City Manager Eric Sanders says there's a big need for families who have lost housing, and the space being offered at the church will not be a homeless shelter, but rather smaller apartment-type spaces on the bottom floor of the building with bathrooms and kitchens. Families will have to apply and be approved by the Mid-Coast Maine Homeless Coalition before they can use the property.
Last month, residents of the Cedar Falls Mobile Home Park in Bangor closed on a deal, officially obtaining ownership of that park. Now the Residents Cooperative is looking towards expanding even further to address the area's housing crisis. Our Grace Blanchard shares more.
After months of fundraising efforts, a team of residents who have called the Cedar Falls Mobile Home Park in Bangor home for years have officially taken over ownership of the park.
I'm feeling great. It's become a community. Everybody talks to one another. It's really great.
When the park went up for sale last year, the more than 100 households became fearful new ownership could lead to potential evictions or hikes in rent.
We could have lost our homes. From what I heard, that was the plan from the corporation that wanted to buy. They were going to evict all of us.
No one should be afraid that a surprise rent increase will break the bank.
A team of residents led by longtime resident Ronnie Pinkham formed a cooperative and are now the second mobile home community to achieve resident ownership under a new state law.
When they wake up in the morning, they can step out on the grass and say, whoa, I own it. I'm safe. I don't have to worry about somebody kicking me out.
Now with the ability to expand, they are partnering with Bangor Housing to provide up to 80 additional lots.
When you have a city like Bangor that's in a housing crisis, any supply is a huge piece to fixing that.
By 2035, the executive director of Bangor Housing says Maine is expected to be short around 80,000 homes. Myatt says they hope to fill 28 vacant lots in the mobile home park by this summer.
Anything that we can build is going to help with that supply issue, which ultimately, if we can do enough, is going to help with the affordability.
In Bangor, Grace Blanchard, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
All right, the time now is 8:17. After the break, there may be a fresh blanket of snow outside, but it's never too early to start daydreaming about green leaves and grass. We'll learn some lawn care tips for this spring season.
Plus, that 5-day forecast means you may have to keep dreaming for a little longer. We'll explain as Good Morning Maine continues.
Roto-Rooter has served the greater Bangor area and beyond for 35 years, offering plumbing, hydrojetting, snaking, descaling, video inspection, and grease interceptor cleaning services. For all your residential and commercial clogs, call Roto-Rooter today, 990-1234.
And away go troubles down the drain. Roto-Rooter.
You live in vacation land, right? Then get out and vacation, why don't you? And do it in style by renting an RV from Maine Campo Rentals. Fully furnished, fully insured, ready to roll out and explore. Or maybe you have relatives visiting you. Save your marriage, save the hotel expense, put them up in an affordable RV from Maine Campo Rentals. We'll deliver to Acadia and local campgrounds too. Call or visit online at mainecamporentals.com. Put away that cell phone and discover vacation land with Maine Campo Rentals in Brewer.
Brandywine Graphics makes it easy. We are the top source for screen printing, embroidery, branded merchandise, and direct-to-garment printing. With 25 years experience, state-of-the-art equipment, and a commitment to excellence, why trust your apparel products with anyone else? And now, Brandywine Graphics can easily launch online stores for your school or organization. Simply design your products from brands like Eddie Bauer, Carhartt, and more. Share the link and we'll do the rest. Like we said, Brandywine Graphics makes it easy. Find out more at brandywinegraphics.com or at our Hamden location.
The senator's child has been kidnapped.
We got 5 missing girls. Putting out the alert. We're the missing persons unit. Nobody is better at this than we are. You see something, shoot at it, don't miss. Got it, coach.
Captain Batista is missing. Her car's been destroyed. All hands on deck.
Nikki's running out of time.
Hit it. She's one of ours. MPU will get her back.
Alert MPU premieres tonight on Fox.
Most Mainers are waking up to white lawns this morning, but if you use your imagination, you can envision a perfect wash of green. So here's some refresher tips on how to get the perfect yard this season. For starters, experts recommend letting nature take its course. While you may want to fertilize your lawn when the snow melts, avoid the urge. Experts say grass doesn't need help growing in the spring, and fertilizers aren't as active in the cooler weather. Save it for when it's warmer. Instead, experts suggest letting it grow naturally and leaving lawn clippings where they lay to act as a natural fertilizer. Other than that, it's a good time to clean up leftover debris from last season and then get ahead on weeding before they spread during the warmer weather.
Boy, that green grass does look nice. Some folks are also recommending maybe you leave at least a patch of your lawn, just let it grow for a while to help all the pollinators that need to hang out there for a while.
Yeah, they're calling it No Mow May.
Yeah.
All right, the time now is 8:20.
Let's get a full look at that weather forecast.
Alrighty, Craig and Emma, thank you very much. Here's that small craft advisory that's in effect along the coast, and that will expire at around 6 a.m. as we head towards through Wednesday. Active surf along the coast at around 4 feet according to the buoys. Anywhere you see these lighter blue and green colors indicating some higher surf as well, even 8 feet according to this buoy farther out towards sea. Meanwhile, on land, some areas of dense fog developing in a few spots this morning, especially further off towards the west. So keep that in mind as you do make that morning commute. Maybe slow down and allow extra time as needed. We saw some snowfall last night into this morning, and most of us saw around 5 inches, like over in the Calais area, even Bangor at around 5.3 inches. Here's a couple more reports with Greenville at around 6 inches and 4.5 inches in the Lakeville area. But the snow and rain has since tapered off. We're quieting down this morning under that mostly cloudy sky with a few spots seeing some fog this morning as well. We're not quite done yet. There's a little bit more energy off from the west and to the northwest that will allow some more scattered rain and snow showers to develop. Meanwhile, across the Midwest, some rain showers, even a few snow showers developing this morning. Futurecast moving forward for us. We'll get the fog out of here. Clouds will then be back with rain and snow showers this afternoon. Those will taper off early this evening, and then some clouds, areas of dense fog developing again later on tonight and parts of Wednesday morning. And we press repeat. More scattered rain and snow showers possible as we head towards Wednesday afternoon and also into Wednesday evening too. But notice as we head towards your Thursday, some snow showers will also be lingering. No big deal with that at all. And then once we head towards your Friday, another little wave of energy begins to move in. Some snow showers possible. Could mix in with a little bit of rain at times. And then a bigger system starts to arrive as we head towards this weekend. A lot of uncertainty with the system, so I'm not going to break it down any more than this right now. Just watch how we could possibly see a system as we head towards this weekend. Otherwise, our average high temperature is 43 degrees. Pretty consistent. We'll be in the 40s today all the way through at least Friday, and then we're back in the 30s Saturday, Sunday, and also into your Monday. For today, mid-40s, scattered rain and snow showers. Southwest wind at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Later on tonight, areas of dense fog, lows in the lower 20s, partly cloudy with rain and snow showers early, with the wind overall looking nice and calm. Tomorrow, mid-40s, scattered rain and snow showers again. Southwest breeze at around 5 miles per hour. And let's check out your extended forecast. So we'll be partly cloudy for your Thursday with highs in the lower 40s. This extended forecast actually looks worse than what it really is. There will be plenty of dry hours as well. More rain and snow showers Friday with highs in the low 40s. Upper 30s Saturday with a chance for snow showers.
Hi, I'm Dave from PDQ Door. We pride ourselves on our honesty and integrity. We'll always give you the best garage door repairs at a real price. Had your doors installed by another company? That's okay. Our experienced team is available to service all brands and models. Visit us at pdqdoor.com.
Taxes was feeling so stuck. Now Taxes is a TurboTax expert, doing everything while you do your thing. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax.
You know what today is? It's Tuesday. But no matter what day of the week, Lowry & Associates is your go-to law firm. If you've been hurt, call us right now.
If you're hurt in an accident, what do you do? Call 222-2222.
R&K Variety is more than just a convenience store. With delicious homemade food made fresh daily. We offer hearty meals that don't break the bank. Whether it be our delicious chicken pot pie, one of our many savory soups, or a pizza, you can't go wrong at R&K Variety. Looking for a drink after a long workday? R&K Variety is an agency liquor store with an impressive selection. R&K Variety, more than just a convenience store. We're your neighbor, chef, barista, and friend. Stop by today.
For your home and your range, Bad Boy Mowers will tame any terrain.
Give me a home.
Designed with advanced engineering and fueled by power that's second to none.
And the skies are not black all day. Home on the range.
Bad Boy. Mow with an attitude.
Hi, I'm Dave from PDQ Door. For a brighter, quieter, smarter garage door, call PDQ Door. You can count on LiftMaster openers, and for the best prices and best service, you can count on PDQ Door. Visit us online at pdqdoor.com, where we sell the best and service the rest.
There's new backlash this morning against the Trump administration's national security team after several top officials accidentally included a journalist in a group chat discussing war plans. Democrats and some Republicans are calling for an investigation as some try to brush it off as a mistake that won't happen again. ABC's Christian Cordero has the details from Washington.
It's one of the most bizarre and potentially consequential national security lapses to reach the public forum. Top Trump administration officials, including National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, laid out plans about the U.S.'s attack on the Houthis in Yemen before putting it into action. The chat over the unauthorized encrypted messaging app Signal accidentally invited in on the conversation editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg.
At 11:44 a.m., I receive a text in this chain from someone who claims to be Pete Hegseth, who provides what I can only call a war plan. I sort of wait with my phone to see if this is a real thing. Sure enough, around 1:50 Eastern Time, I see that Yemen is under attack.
The White House confirmed the messages Goldberg reported were authentic. Hegseth then went after and dismissed the reporting itself.
Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
Goldberg withheld some screenshots in his reporting, saying they could further risk national security. He said Hegseth shared operational details of forthcoming strikes, weapons deploying, and attack sequencing. After the March 15th missile strikes, Goldberg says officials celebrated in the group chat using emojis. Members of Congress divided over the breach's impact.
This is gross negligence on steroids. Do they realize that Russia and China have targeted Signal to try to break in?
Somebody made a mistake, and it happens. I think most Americans understand that.
Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, whose use of a private server for classified emails became a major issue during her presidential campaign, responded by writing, quote, "You have got to be kidding me." Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe were both on the chat and are among those slated to appear before the Senate Intelligence Committee today for a previously scheduled hearing, where members of Congress will have the opportunity to question them. Christian Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
Well, meanwhile, we're about a week away from what the president is calling Liberation Day for the U.S., the day reciprocal tariffs will be imposed on not just our adversaries, but key trading partners. The White House has announced it will target what they call the Dirty 15, the 15% of nations with the biggest trade imbalances. But as Fox's Rebecca Castro reports, President Trump is not holding back on targeting Venezuela.
Tremendous amounts of money will be soon coming in from tariffs.
At the White House, the Trump administration is staring down a big deadline, April 2nd, the day the U.S. will impose reciprocal tariffs on countries with unfair trade practices.
This is a program that's going to be, I think, unbelievable for our country, and I think it's treating other countries very fairly.
But the looming tariffs may not be as far-reaching as once thought. The White House is now dialed in on what it's calling the Dirty 15, the 15% of nations with the worst trade imbalances. According to the U.S. Trade Representative, China, the European Union, and Mexico top the list.
It's win-win. Either the trade friction that these other countries have come down and we get fair trade, and if they don't follow President Trump's lead, then he will raise the tariff wall.
But President Trump also seems to be looking for a way to punish Venezuela for not cracking down on illegal immigration. Since the U.S. doesn't do a lot of trade with the country, Trump plans to impose a secondary tariff, also taking effect April 2nd, announcing on Truth Social, any country that purchases oil and/or gas from Venezuela will be forced to pay a tariff of 25% to the United States on any trade they do with our country. This secondary tariff is really the first of its kind. China and India are the two biggest buyers of Venezuelan oil and will be impacted the most. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
And coming up on the second half of the newscast, a Maine veteran has found a new calling, selling his handmade wares. We'll see how he learned his craft from generations past.
That and more coming up on Good Morning Maine.
Here at Twin City Tire and Service, you will be working with industry professionals. We have ASE certified master technicians and certified tire and lube technicians. If we need your vehicle for a duration of time, we offer a complimentary shuttle service and can even offer a loaner vehicle. Being a client at Twin City Tire and Service means that we will treat you right. This includes a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on mechanical repairs. We also provide you with 1 year of complimentary roadside assistance. Come see us today at Twin City Tire and Service in Brewer.
The FlexSteel Spring Semi-Annual Sale is in full bloom with fresh savings on fabric and leather reclining and stationary furniture, tables, beds, desks, dressers, and more. Furniture that comforts, furniture that endures, all with a blue steel spring at its core. FlexSteel, designed for living, built for life. Save big today during FlexSteel Spring Semi-Annual Sale.
Dorsey Furniture, open 7 days a week, Route 1A Holden.
You're watching Fox 22, Bangor.
Welcome back, everyone, for another check of that forecast. Let's send things over to Devin Biggs.
Hey, Craig and Emma, thank you very much. Happy Tuesday. We have a small craft advisory that's up until 6 a.m. Wednesday. Along the coast, still some active surf that we are keeping an eye on. Visibility levels kind of hit and miss in a few areas this morning where we have some areas of dense fog that have been developing in a few areas. We'll see that tapering off rather soon. Meanwhile, we had some snowfall yesterday, and most of us saw around 4 to 5 inches. Here's a couple reports right here. Calais saw around 5 inches, Bangor around 5.3 inches. So overall, some decent snowfall across the area, and a couple more reports too. Greenville at around 6 inches, Lakeville at around 4.5 inches of snow. Now that snow has since tapered off, it's tracking off to the north and east, but we're not completely done with the precipitation. There's more energy off toward the west and to the northwest too, and now we'll send some more rain and snow in our direction. Futurecast showing those rain and snow showers developing this afternoon. They will taper off early this evening, but notice some clouds and even some dense fog on the way later on tonight. But otherwise, your forecast for today, we have mid-40s scattered rain and snow showers and a southwest breeze at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Your hourly forecast for the rest of the morning and afternoon period showing a mostly cloudy sky, scattered rain and snow showers for the afternoon. Temperatures warming into the 40s. Your full 5-day forecast is coming up. Greg and Emma.
All right, thank you very much, Devin. Well, today is, what is it, Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. Not only is it Taco Tuesday, it's also International Waffle Day. Can you tell I'm hungry? Talking about food.
This is a day to celebrate waffles, their history, and a surprising religious holiday. It's also pretty convenient that Maine Maple Sunday happened before this very important national holiday. Waffles first appeared in Sweden in the early 1600s and quickly spread to nearby lands. An event held in celebration of them was called Waffeldagen, or Waffle Day, which sounded similar to a local religious holiday, and they've been eaten on that holiday ever since. They're now enjoyed around the world.
I love a good waffle in the morning. I remember cooking them for my kids when they were growing up too. They always wanted waffles.
Yeah.
The bad part about it is having to clean the waffle iron afterwards.
You clean the waffle iron?
Yeah, you got to clean it. And all this stuff, well, the way I do it, because I spill stuff all over the side.
I don't have to clean mine.
And whatever. Yeah,
No.
I'm a messy man, but
Yeah.
they're so good. So now I want waffles.
Yeah, I know. I have them for dinner a lot.
And tacos.
Yeah.
All right, on this day in history back in 1857, Frederick Langenheim took the very first photo of a solar eclipse. In 1911, tragedy struck in Manhattan when fire erupted in a building where mostly immigrant workers were making clothing in sweatshop conditions. Some of the exits in the Triangle Shirtwaist factory were blocked, and 146 workers were killed as they tried to escape, mostly teenage girls. The tragedy led to the development of a series of laws and regulations that better protected factory workers in the future.
Yeah, learning about that one is kind of a critical thing in American history classes because a lot of the changes to workers' rights happened right around that time, and because of that.
Yeah, unfortunately, it has to take a tragedy to come up with some of those
yeah,
things.
oh yeah, people had to be killed.
Yeah. All right, in other news, in 1947, John D. Rockefeller III presented a check for $8.5 million to the United Nations. It was used to purchase the land for the site of the UN Center in New York City.
In 1954, the Radio Corporation of America began commercial production of color television sets. A company better known as RCA, and the first sets cost about $100,000, or excuse me, not $100,000, obviously not, $1,000. Can you tell I'm tired?
Yeah, it was still a lot. Think about $1,000
Yeah.
back then for a TV. It'd be like thousands and thousands in today's money.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. In 1982, Wayne Gretzky became the first and only player in NHL history to score 200 points in a season. In 1996, the European Union banned all British beef exports due to the risks of mad cow disease. In 2017, the world's largest banana split was made in Australia. The feat was achieved with the use of 40,000 bananas and was an incredible 5 miles long. Those look like, are those just boxes of bananas?
Yeah, boxes, because it was just like one long thing that kind of snaked through that. I think it was a rugby field there. I saw some other photos online. It's a massive field, and it was all filled.
With ice cream? And
with
bananas?
ice cream, yeah. They went through, all these volunteers went in there. They had to put ice cream in there. It looked like scoop by scoop, and then all the bananas and all the toppings, and then after that, everybody got to go eat it. So,
okay.
And they had to act quickly too, because it's outside in the sun.
Right.
So, but yeah, they set the world record.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. In 2019, the first kidney transplant between two persons with HIV occurred in Boston.
That was huge news at the time. You notice a lot of food-related things in today's look back at history.
Yeah.
All right, for birthdays today, they include American astronaut James Lovell, who is 97 years old today. He's one of the guys who was on Apollo 13 that nearly didn't make it back to the Earth. So he's still going, 97 years old.
Wow.
Actor Sarah Jessica Parker is 60 today, and pop superstar Elton John is 78 years old today. Happy birthday to them. Happy birthday to you too, if it's your birthday.
All right, now let's, oh wait, we already did weather.
Already did weather, so
Yep.
we'll move on to this next thing. Take it away.
Well, a Maine veteran has found a new calling.
And as Jody Hersey tells us, this new mission runs in his family.
Travis Hill served in both the Maine Air National Guard and Army National Guard, but these days his calling is leather.
But most people in Maine, they have a history with leather. It was, you know, there were tanneries throughout the whole state. So from grandparents to parents, all being involved in leather.
Hill's own family worked in the industry.
My grandparents both worked at Farmington Shoe, and my grandmother worked there for, I believe, decades. It was years and years. And on the weekends, they actually had a small shoe shop that they created in their home garage. And they were a huge square dancing couple. And so what they would do is produce like fancy shoes, dancing shoes, square dancing shoes for their family, friends, and themselves.
Travis is the owner of #Leatherworks, which he operates out of his home in China, Maine, cutting and stitching by machine or by hand before his products are shipped to customers.
Some people like the added effect of hand stitching. Some people don't care, you know, either way. But I just know for my own well-being when I send a bag. I've never had a bag returned. I've never had one in 7 years fall apart. And so I know that I'm doing something right.
His bags, totes, checkbook covers, and other items are all available online or at area craft fairs. He just wishes his grandparents were still around to see his work.
It's such an old art, and I wish that I could have seen them working in their shop, you know, with the tools that they did. And especially knowing that it was a hobby, kind of like mine started off as a hobby. I just think it's fantastic. It really just, you know, ties the whole family together.
In China, I'm Jody Hersey for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Very neat. I like those Maine bags too.
I know. I have a bag pretty similar, and it'll last forever. You do want to take care of leather.
Yeah. Good for him though.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, after the break, Tyler Cruz has our sports updates.
Don't go away.
Chevy makes affordable vehicles that help you enjoy life. Get more for less in the Chevy Trax. Maximize every mile in the all-electric Equinox. And power through with the capable Colorado. Enjoy endless possibilities and your new Chevy. Get the versatile 2025 Trax, starting at $21,795. Visit your Maine Chevy dealers.
Ye Olde General, located in Carmel, has everything you could ever need. Whether it be kerosene, regular or ethanol-free gasoline, wood pellets, a fresh-cooked pizza, or fried food, they've got you covered. Looking to get a stiff drink after work? Ye Olde General is an agency liquor store with a great selection of alcohol. Ye Olde General can help with your next home project, carrying carpentry supplies from hammers and nails to specialty nuts and bolts. They have what you need to get the job done. Stop by Ye Olde General today. If you don't think they'll have it, they probably do.
Hi, I'm Tony Hafford from TC Hafford Basement Systems, the all things basement-y company. Basement waterproofing, basement structural repair, humidity and mold control, and nasty crawl spaces too. Since 1991, over 15,000 Maine homeowners have trusted TC Hafford Basement Systems to fix their basements. Call TC Hafford Basement Systems today for all things basement-y.
It's Markdown Mania at the Furniture Gallery, and the deals are madness. Relax in this cozy recliner. Choose tan, gray, or brown for only $298. Grab a sofa chaise for just $598. Upgrade your living room with a sofa and love seat set, now just $798. Scott Living mattresses are now priced king size for a queen price. Plus, save up to 70% on in-stock clearance items. Hurry into the Furniture Gallery, shop our main family-owned business, and save money. The Furniture Gallery.
Baseball Night in America is back.
Wow, look at this.
Saturday at 7 Eastern on Fox.
It is NCAA Tournament Week. Welcome back in, everyone. Thank you for staying with us. In just a matter of days, Maine hockey is back on the ice for the first round of the NCAA Tournament. And on Sunday, the Black Bears finding out the who, whats, whens, and wheres of the first round. After winning the Hockey East Championship this past weekend, the Black Bears are the #3 overall seed in the NCAA Tournament, and Maine will play the 14th overall seed, the Penn State Nittany Lions. The Black Bears are heading to Allentown, Pennsylvania for the first and hopefully second round, and they say taking care of business at the Garden is a huge boost as they focus on chasing a national championship.
You know, playing at the Garden, playing in front of 17,000 fans, you know, that's a big game, big atmosphere, and it gives us a lot of experience, a lot of momentum, like you said. Just being in those positions, being in those high-pressure moments. You know, when everything's on the line, you got to be able to stay calm, composed. So those games really helped a lot with that.
Maine returned to Orono on Saturday to a swarm of fans at the Alphon greeting them, and an even bigger swarm took over Boston this past weekend. It's going to be a different feel in Allentown, though, where Penn State will have a home ice advantage there, but Maine is ready for the challenge, and they're still expecting some blue in the crowd down in PA as well.
It's definitely going to be a good test. You know, obviously, it's near Penn State, and I'm sure both fan bases will be nuts, and it's probably the two craziest fan bases. So Juice will definitely be in the building, that's for sure.
I still think that Maine fans have the best fans in college hockey, and I've already talked to a lot of them, and it sounds like people want to travel. So I have no doubt that there's going to be some blue Maine fans in the stands. So they'll get out and they'll support us.
That game is at 8:30 on Friday night. Wishing them luck. Staying with the Black Bears and over to the basketball court now for the 16 teams that aren't in the Sweet 16 or any of the postseason tournaments. It's the start of transfer portal season in the college hoops world. Two major players in this year's historic run for Maine men's basketball are looking to finish their eligibility elsewhere. Point guard Jaden Clayton and guard AJ Lopez have both reportedly entered the transfer portal, according to verbal commits. Clayton has been the starting point for a few seasons and was instrumental in the turnaround of the program. Lopez earned second-team All-America East this season and was the team's leading scorer with 14.8 points per game. It was a great season for the Black Bears. They fell to Bryant in the America East Championship earlier this month. Let's stay with some basketball now. The first weekend of the NCAA tournament is in the books, and like I said, we are on to the Sweet 16. Cooper Flagg and the Duke Blue Devils showing that they earned that top seed rolling through the opening rounds. The top seeded Blue Devils surviving and advancing, but more like thriving. Duke dismantled Mount St. Mary's in round 1 before taking down 9-seeded Baylor 89-66 on Sunday to punch their ticket to the Sweet 16. Cooper had a huge game in Duke's win over the Bears with 18 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists, and he and the Blue Devils are now just 2 wins away from heading to the Final Four. Here's what Maine's favorite Blue Devil had to say about his success on Sunday.
Just getting downhill, getting in the paint is when good things happen all around. So whether it's kicking out for threes or, like you said, getting fouled. So that's definitely something that we emphasize going into every game, just getting in the paint, trying to make plays.
Coop and the Blue Devils are off until Friday night when they play Arizona at 9:30 in the Sweet 16 winner to the Elite 8. Let's keep it here for a second. It was a pretty uneventful weekend for March Madness. Not really a lot of madness, save for the ending of the Maryland-Colorado State game on Sunday, with Derek Queen beating the buzzer after Colorado State took the lead with seconds left. It's been a pretty tame tournament thus far. The one major upset being second-seeded St. John's falling to Arkansas in another classic with Rick Pitino and John Calipari at the helm. There are no mid-major teams in the Sweet 16 and only one double-digit seed remaining in Arkansas. All 4 top seeds and 3 of the 4 2 seeds are still alive as well. So hopefully no one's bracket too busted just yet. Let's go to the baseball diamond now. The Boston Red Sox open the season this week, and thankfully they won't be in New England for it. They'll be down in Texas, and at least one member of the new Big Three will make the opening day roster. Christian Campbell will likely be the Red Sox opening day second baseman, according to several reports out of spring training on Monday. The utility infielder Campbell really came onto the scene a year ago in the minors. He was named Minor League Baseball's Hitter of the Year and Minor League Baseball's Breakout Player of the Year. Campbell is Boston's second highest ranked prospect, and he is the 7th overall prospect in Major League Baseball. Certainly excited to see what he can do at the big league level, and it won't be too long until we see the other 2 of the Big Three as well. On that note, happy high school spring sports opening day. I know it doesn't look like it outside, but the season officially kicking off on Monday for baseball and softball. Pitchers and catchers can report, start throwing, get the arms loose. Lacrosse goalies are good to go. All official practices and tryouts start next week, and before you know it, it will be time for a world-famous ballpark brownie sundae out in the sunlight at Mansfield Stadium. Certainly looking forward to that. That is all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
Fires, floods, burst pipes. Disasters happen, but the mess they leave behind doesn't have to last. For 40 years, Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration has been there to help Mainers get back to the closest to normal as they can. When your property is at its worst, Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration is at their best, and they have been for 4 decades. Put your trust in the Bouchard team. Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration. You keep the memories, we'll handle the rest.
Your local financial partner has a new name, the County Federal Credit Union. And we're inspired by the people we serve, the big dreamers and smart planners, the risk takers and trailblazers. As a lifelong partner offering powerful tools and personal service, we were built for our members. Start a financial relationship that's driven by community and inspired by you. Visit countyfcu.org.
Foggy's Pub, your place for fun, food, and friends in Palmyra, Maine.
Ready? MLS is game on. Don't cheat. On.
is our soccer. Game on.
Welcome back to Good Morning Maine. I'm here with Dr. Vanessa Little of Northern Light Health, and she's here today to talk about a very important subject to her and for everybody, palliative care. Dr. Little, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So why do you work in the palliative care field?
So I trained in family medicine and realized in the ICU that palliative care was really where I wanted to go, because palliative care allows us to tell the truth and let patients and families know they have choices. I work for Northern Light because I feel passionate about all Mainers having equal access to palliative care, and it felt like Northern Light was the right place to make that happen.
Cool, yeah, and it seems like you've been able to. What is, for the folks who don't know, what is palliative care?
Palliative care is a specialty in medicine where we help people with serious illness live their best lives. It's for anyone living with serious illness that wants to have a say in their care.
Gotcha. So, excuse me, is this different than, it's obviously different than hospice care.
It is,
Yeah.
and we get that question a lot. And interestingly, I look forward to the day that we don't hear that question anymore.
Yeah.
About 50 years ago, hospice and palliative care were the same thing.
Yep.
But now in this country, hospice is both a philosophy of care and a healthcare delivery model for people that have life-limiting illness, who either there's no further curative treatment available to them or they don't want to pursue more curative treatment. Hospice care is the best care to help them be at home. Whereas palliative care is, like I said, a specialty in medicine. It's for anyone living with serious illness at any time in the course of their illness.
Gotcha.
And it's just an extra layer of support. It doesn't replace anything, take anything away.
Gotcha. So can you give me an example of what type of support that may be for a certain type of person?
Sure. When we first meet someone, I always ask, like, what do you know about palliative care? And most of the time, they're just like you, like, we don't know.
Right.
So I get to, and I think part of that is because it's so individually focused. It's whatever that patient needs. So sometimes it's talking about goals of care and what would you most like your care to look like. Sometimes it might be symptom management, like pain or shortness of breath or nausea. And also in palliative care, we think of the whole family as a unit of care. So we also support families and patients. A lot of it is coping.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, financial stress is common in serious illness, and we'll talk about that too.
Oh, totally. Yeah, chronic illness and financial stress, big connection there. Yeah, and I mean, I think any therapist would say too, poverty is a big indicator of mental health challenges.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, because naturally. But that's fascinating. So how does this make, how is it different than maybe consulting with your general care practitioner?
So palliative care physicians are specialists. We have a separate board certification and fellowship training. So our procedures are conversations, and it's about building rapport. We are experts in how to have those conversations and also in symptom management. There are plenty of primary care providers that can provide basic palliative care too. Not everyone needs that specialty level of service. And sometimes it depends on the individual. Some primary care providers or specialists are more or less comfortable with symptom management and also with conversations about goals. So
totally. Yep, it takes a different, different people with different specialties. Okay, so if somebody thinks that this is something that they should look into, how can they learn more and look into it?
Yep. Well, it's a good place to start would be with your primary care provider, other specialists. They can make a referral. Yep. But you could also just call us at Northern Light Health, 400-8741, and we can help guide you, answer any questions.
Yeah, it seems like you guys have an advancing program on palliative care.
We do.
Very cool.
We have clinics in Brewer, Blue Hill, and Ellsworth are coming, Presque Isle, Pittsfield, and Portland, and we offer telehealth in places that we don't have in-person care.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, telehealth has really helped me out in times of need.
Great.
Cool. Well, Dr. Little, thanks so much for telling us about this.
Thank you for including me.
Of course. We'll send it over to Devin Biggs with our full weather forecast.
Alrighty, Craig and Emma, thank you very much. Here's that small craft advisory that's in effect along the coast, and that will expire at around 6 a.m. as we head towards your Wednesday. Active surf along the coast at around 4 feet according to the buoys. And anywhere you see these lighter blue and green colors indicating some higher surf as well, even 8 feet according to this buoy farther out towards sea. Meanwhile, on land, some areas of dense fog developing in a few spots this morning, especially further off towards the west. So keep that in mind as you do make that morning commute. Maybe slow down and allow extra time as needed. We saw some snowfall last night into this morning, and most of us saw around 5 inches, like over in the Calais area, even Bangor at around 5.3 inches. Here's a couple more reports with Greenville at around 6 inches and 4.5 inches in the Lakeville area. But the snow and rain has since tapered off. We're quieting down this morning under that mostly cloudy sky, with a few spots seeing some fog this morning as well. We're not quite done yet. There's a little bit more energy off from the west and to the northwest that will allow some more scattered rain and snow showers to develop. Meanwhile, across the Midwest, some rain showers, even a few snow showers developing this morning. Futurecast moving forward for us. We'll get the fog out of here. Clouds will then be back with rain and snow showers this afternoon. Those will taper off early this evening, and then some clouds, areas of dense fog developing again later on tonight and a parts of Wednesday morning. And we press repeat, more scattered rain and snow showers possible as we head towards Wednesday afternoon and also into Wednesday evening too. But notice as we head towards your Thursday, some snow showers will also be lingering. No big deal with that at all. And then once we head towards your Friday, another little wave of energy begins to move in. Some snow showers possible. Could mix in with a little bit of rain at times. And then a bigger system starts to arrive as we head towards this weekend. A lot of uncertainty with the system, so I'm not going to break it down any more than this right now. Just watch how we could possibly see a system as we head towards this weekend. Otherwise, our average high temperature is 43 degrees. Pretty consistent. We'll be in the 40s today all the way through at least Friday, and then we're back in the 30s Saturday, Sunday, and also into your Monday. For today, mid-40s, scattered rain and snow showers. Southwest wind at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Later on tonight, areas of dense fog, lows in the lower 20s, partly cloudy with rain and snow showers early, with the wind overall looking nice and calm. Tomorrow, mid-40s, scattered rain and snow showers again. Southwest breeze at around 5 miles per hour. And let's check out your extended forecast. So we'll be partly cloudy for your Thursday with highs in the lower 40s. This extended forecast actually looks worse than what it really is. There will be plenty of dry hours as well. More rain and snow showers Friday with highs in the low 40s. Upper 30s Saturday with a chance for snow showers.
You live in vacation land, right? Then get out and vacation, why don't you? And do it in style by renting an RV from Maine Campo Rentals. Fully furnished, fully insured, ready to roll out and explore. Or maybe you have relatives visiting you. Save your marriage, save the hotel expense, put them up in an affordable RV from Maine Campo Rentals. We'll deliver to Acadia and local campgrounds too. Call or visit online at mainecamporentals.com. Put away that cell phone and discover vacation land with Maine Campo Rentals in Brewer.
Derek.
Hey, Mom, I need to lay low for a couple days. There's too much heat on this car.
Too much heat?
I only paid for a Hyundai Tucson.
Ruth! Listen, Jenna, I need to lay low for a few days. Why?
Deal so right, it almost feels wrong. The Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Lease a Hyundai Elantra for $199 a month today. Hurry in.
Welcome to Bob's.
Thanks. I know your MV mattress has luxurious hand tufting with temperature-regulating Tencel and gel-infused memory foam for the ultimate sleep experience, but it costs hundreds less than the other national brands. I mean, they're not exactly the same, but is theirs worth so much more?
You be the judge. Oh, and you forgot about our 20-year warranty.
What? That's 10 years more than theirs.
You've really done your research.
It's kind of my thing.
When you get luxury sleep for less, there's only one thing to say.
Oh, my Bob!
People ask me all the time, are those commercials really true? Does Lowry & Associates really get all of those clients, all of those big settlements? Yes, we do. We really have gotten millions of dollars for Mainers hurt by commercial vehicles. And the insurance companies know when you call the twos, we're going to fight for you. And you know what else is true? I really am standing on top of this big truck.
Hurt by a big truck? Call the twos. We win for you.
it does look like we're running out of time. If you missed anything, you can head to foxbangor.com.
We thank you so much for joining us and hope you have a wonderful day.
Today on 25 Words or Less, he helped put Bravo on the map. Now please, I'm begging you, take it back off. There's too many housewives. It's Carson Kressley. And joining Carson are girlfriend and boyfriend, Suzanne and Jordan. From stand-up comedy to music, this guy will, I'll have a go at both. It's Head Crack. And joining him are our returning champions, brother and sister, Tyler and Ashley. And now, here's your host, Meredith Vieira.
Welcome to 25 Words or Less. Carson, I'm so excited for you. You raise horses, and one of your horses is about to have a baby.
She is. I'm going to be a daddy.
Have you ever been to the birth of one of your horse's babies?
No, I'm sleeping when that happens. But now there's like an app, and it like somehow lets you know like when the horse mama's water breaks, and then it like triggers a sensor, and then it calls you on your phone, and when you answer, it just says, "You're having a baby."